Hi guys, and welcome back to Prayer and Penguins. Today I'm going to be sharing the 24 books that I want to read in 2024, my top priority books for this year. Now, I did a 23 in 2023 version of this last year and didn't necessarily do that well with the list that I created. But I have a plan this year to be a bit more strategic with the books that I'm putting on this list, to help give myself more of a chance of completing more of these books. So out of my 24 books, 15 of these books are my currently planned TBR for my Books and Bibles reading challenge. If you haven't heard of that challenge, I will link the announcement down below in the description, but this is my reading challenge that I created for 2024 to help us read both the books that are on our TBR as well as more of the Bible. So if that sounds interesting to you, definitely go check that out. Then, as well as using the prompts from that reading challenge to choose my books for this list, I've also tried to make sure that the books on this list are going to help me to achieve my other challenges and goals for this year. So books that I can use for Buzzwordathon, which is a yearly reading challenge created by Kayla from Books with Lala, and it's based on kind of different words in the title each month, as well as my own reading goals being reading Christian books and reading translated books. I've also tried to only include books on this list that I actually own. So I've either got a physical copy, an ebook copy, an audiobook copy, or easy access to definitely get that, because that was one thing that I made a mistake on last year, where there were books that were just harder to get hold of than I thought they would be, so I never actually ended up getting the book, let alone being able to read it. Now, I'm not going to say too much about each book in this video, otherwise we will be here for hours, but I will link all of the books down in the description if you'd like to find out more or check them out for yourselves. So let's start with the 15 books that make up my Books and Bibles Reading Challenge TBR. Again, I'm only going to be talking about the book prompt part of this challenge in this video, so if you want to find out all of the information about that challenge, check out the announcement video linked below. So the first character is Noah, and the prompt is animals on the cover. And the book I'm planning to read for this is River Sing Me Home by Eleanor Shearer. And this is a historical fiction that I believe is about a woman, a mother, who has been split away from her children during slavery. And they've either been killed or taken away to be slaves in different places. And after she has been freed, I believe she is going to go and look for her children and find out what has happened to them. And it has a very beautiful cover, including some birds. The next character is Anna, and the prompt is older characters. So for this one, I'm going to be reading Call of the Penguins by Hazel Pryor, and this is the sequel to Away with the Penguins, also by Hazel Pryor, and this follows Veronica McCready, who is, I don't actually know how old she is, but she's definitely kind of Granny McCready, so she's definitely older. I just can't remember how old. It literally says here, she's lived an incredible 87 years. She's 87 years old, so definitely counts as an older character. This is a contemporary book following an older lady and some characters that she meets and how they get involved with the penguins. The next character was Joseph, and for this we had to do a random colour generator and read a book of that colour. So when I did this, I got a very kind of goldy, orangey kind of sunset colour. And a book that I found that matches very closely was The Bodyguard by Catherine Center. So this is a romance, I believe, between some kind of celebrity and their bodyguard. And I think it's just going to be kind of light, easy read, but a bit of fun. Our next character was Zacchaeus, and the prompt is a short book, and for this I'm going to be reading The Housekeeper and the Professor by Yoko Ogawa, and I believe this is a Japanese classic. It is translated from Japanese, and it follows a professor who I believe has kind of incredibly short-term memory, so they can only remember kind of a certain time period that is pretty short, and the housekeeper that comes in to look after them and look after the house. And I don't really know much more than that. It is a very short book, less than 200 pages, but I am intrigued. Our next character is Mary, and the book prompt was to read a highly anticipated book. And for this, I have chosen The Confession Room by Leah Middleton. Leah Middleton's other two books I have absolutely loved, so I'm really excited to get to this book. It's been on my radar and my TBR for actually like 6 months or so, and I'm kind of surprised that I haven't got to it yet, but I am really excited to get into it. My understanding is that this follows this kind of online forum confession room where people confess to different things that they've done, on in this kind of anonymous forum, and then one day someone starts confessing to murder. The next character was the Good Samaritan, and the prompt is to read a book from an author who is different to you, whether by country, culture, religion, whatever that looks like. So for this, I've chosen to read Love from A to Z by S.K. Ali. And S.K. Ali, as an author, she, I believe, was born in India and then came as an immigrant quite young, I think, to Canada. And she's also a Muslim. And at least one of the characters in the book, one of the main characters, is also Muslim. So different religion to me, different kind of cultural background from India. And whilst Canada is kind of a Western country, I'm sure there are many differences for us here in the UK. But this is a YA romance between two people, Adam and Zainab I think it is, and they meet in Doha, and I don't really know what happens after that. I have actually started this book, but I haven't got very far into it at all, so they haven't even met yet. The next character was Esau, and the prompt is to read a second chance author. So for this, I have chosen to read The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. Last year, I read The Last Family in England by Matt Haig, and really didn't like that book, like, at all, really. There are a lot of things in that that really annoyed me. So this one I know is very loved by a lot of people, so I'm hoping this one will be a lot better. But this is a book that kind of explores mental health and kind of looks at if someone's life had a library, and you could look at what would have happened if they made different decisions in their life. The next character was Jonah, and the prompt is to read a book with water on the cover or in the setting. So for this, I'm choosing The Institution by Helen Fields, and this is a mystery thriller that I believe follows a detective who has to go undercover in, I think it's like a maximum security prison, and kind of get to the bottom of something that has happened there. The next character is The Woman at the Well, and the prompt was to read a book that has been recommended to you. And for this one, I chose A Strong Female Character by Fern Brady. This is Fern's autobiography, kind of reflecting on her life, her upbringing, her experiences. This one, I wanted to choose a book that was been recommended to me, not just by kind of BookTube and the book community that I hear a lot of book recommendations from, but also in other places. So this book I've had recommended to me several times from work colleagues. We have like a book discussion group, and in there we kind of get a lot of book recommendations and kind of talk about what we're reading. So this book has been really highly recommended by the people that have read it that are my work colleagues, so I'm really interested to get into this one. The next character is James, and the prompt is to read a book with themes of conflict, oppression, injustice, persecution, those kind of themes. And I actually have quite a lot of books on my TBR that do have these kind of themes in them, but for this specifically I have chosen How We Disappeared by Jing Jing Lee, and this follows Singapore in 1942 and the invasion of the Japanese into Malaysia and Singapore. So I think this is a really interesting book, kind of looking at a war that we probably know quite well, or think we know quite well, and have read a lot from, but from a very different perspective. I haven't read many books or heard much or learnt much about kind of the experience in Malaysia and Singapore. The next character was Ruth, and the prompt is to read a book with strong family dynamics. So for this one, I've chosen Yinka, Where Is Your Husband? So this book, I believe, is a romance, but kind of looking at Yinka's experience of kind of being a 30-ish-year-old woman and not having a husband, and kind of the expectations and reaction of her Nigerian family. And I believe this book kind of follows her as she's trying to find a date for her cousin's wedding. But I think the kind of interaction of her family and looking at kind of all those different expectations and what happens there, I'm kind of assuming because of that there will be these kind of strong family dynamics and really good kind of representation of the family involvement there. I don't know for definite because I haven't read the book, but that's kind of what I'm expecting. The next character is Lydia, and the prompt was to read a book with a place name in the title. For this one, I want to read The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley, about a woman who's meant to be going to stay with her brother in his apartment in Paris, but when she gets there, he's missing. And I think she's got to solve this kind of mystery of where is he gone, and kind of meets all of these other people that live in the same apartment building, and kind of they help with the mystery. Maybe they don't, maybe they are the problem. I don't know. The next character is Daniel, and the prompt is to read a book that reminds you of childhood. So for this one, I really want to reread one of my kind of childhood favourites, and this is a series called Ingo by Helen Dunmore. And from what I remember, I haven't like reread a blurb, I'm just trying to remember from when I read it previously as a child, I believe it's about these kids who have lost their dad, I think it is, in an accident on the water, and then they start to get this kind of pull down to the water, and there are these mermaids and they're convincing them to come and become mermaids, and there's some other stuff, I can't remember what it is. There's 4 books in the series and I remember loving this series as a child, so I'm hoping I still enjoy it. The next character is Heman, and the prompt is to choose a book that you think will make you cry. And this is quite an easy choice, and I'm going to be reading The Travelling Cat Chronicles by Hiro Arakawa. And if you have not seen the YouTube video where Meg with Books reads this book and absolutely sobs her eyes out, that is definitely what is making me think that I'm going to cry at this book. I already knew that it was kind of meant to be a really sad book, but seeing her reaction to it, I'm expecting to cry a lot. This is a contemporary book. This is translated from Japanese, and it follows a man who is looking for a home for his cat, and they travel around and you get the perspective of the cat, which is apparently very funny and very humorous, but also a very sad book. So I don't know if I'm looking forward to it or dreading it, or a bit of both. And then the final character is Habakkuk, and the prompt is to read a book about prayer. So for this one, I'm choosing How to Hear God by Pete Greig. So this is a follow-up to his How to Pray book, but this one is talking about listening for God's voice and hearing God speak. So those are the 15 books that I'm going to be using for my Books and Bibles reading challenge. Then we have another 9 books that will make up my 24 in 2024 challenge. TBR. Again, these are books I'm really excited about, and also that will hopefully help me to reach my other goals and challenges too. The first one is Killers of a Certain Age by Deanna Raybourn. So this is a mystery book following some assassins, I believe, who are trying to retire, and they go on a trip and then they realise that they are being hunted and they've got to kind of solve that, do something about that. Sounds fun. Then we have Dear Henry, Love Edith, which is a Christian romance fiction, I believe. I've kind of been looking for some Christian fiction that is not historical romance fiction. That doesn't appeal to me too much. I know a lot of Christian fiction does fit within that genre, but this I think is a little bit different, and it's about these 2 characters who I believe end up kind of writing notes to each other, and I don't really know much else about that. I've just had it recommended, and I'm interested to see more about it. Then we have Before the Memory Fades by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. This is translated from Japanese, and this is the 3rd book in the Before the Coffee Gets Cold series. I've read the first 2 books. This is the next one I need to read. And this kind of is usually, if it follows the same format as the previous books, kind of told in 4 different stories about different people who come to this cafe where they can travel backwards or forwards in time, but only in the cafe, and they have to come back before the coffee gets cold. Next up, we have Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis, and this has been on far too many of my TBRs, to be honest. This is a Christian non-fiction book based on the lectures that C.S. Lewis gave during the Second World War about the Christian faith, and it looks at a lot of different kind of basics of the Christian faith. The next book is The Family Tree by Cyrus Hussein, and this book follows a British Muslim family through kind of lots of different situations in their lives, through grief, I believe, through just kind of family and growing up and all the things that come with that. And I think it's just one of those stories that kind of follows this family through life, and I'm very interested to see where that goes. Next we have Babies and Toddlers by Rachel Turner, Nurturing Your Child's Spiritual Life, and this is a Christian non-fiction that is basically what it says on the tin, looking at kind of your baby's and toddler's spiritual life. And it's very, very short, and it's from Parenting for Faith, which I've heard very good things about. And as a parent of currently a toddler, I'm very interested to kind of dig into this and see what this has to say. Then we have Without a Country by Asa Kulin, and translated by Kenneth Dakin, and this is translated, I believe, from Turkish. And this follows some German Jews who, when Hitler is coming to power, they flee to Turkey, and it's about their experience there and what happens when anti-Semitism again kind of starts to threaten them in Turkey. Next we have Beartown by Frederick Bachman. I've really enjoyed Anxious People by Frederick Bachman, so I'm intrigued to get into this, and I know a lot of people absolutely love this series. This follows a town in Sweden that I believe is kind of very hockey obsessed, and so when something dramatic, very bad happens that involves kind of the hockey team, it kind of sends ripples and waves throughout this town, and you kind of follow the impact of that. And finally, book number 24 is We Died Before We Came Here by Emily Foreman. I believe that is a changed name, that's not actually her real name, but this follows a family of Christian missionaries, and the father, I believe, was killed by Al-Qaeda extremists, and it follows their story of kind of what they do next, what happens to this family, and just their story of this. So those are the 24 books that I really want to get to in 2024. As I said, I will link them all down in the description if any of them caught your eye, if you'd like to find out more. I would love to hear if you guys have read any of these books. What did you think of them? Which ones should I kind of prioritise and read as soon as possible? And what books are you super excited to get to in 2024? And maybe I'll end up adding them to this TBR as other books that I want to read in 2024. If you are still looking for recommendations for what books you want to read for your Books and Bibles reading challenge, I will be doing a kind of full recommendation and ideas video in the next couple of months, so make sure you are subscribed to see that when it comes out. But we do hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful. If you did, please do give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to see more videos from me and Arnold. And if you would like to hear more about all of our goals for 2024, you can check out this video right here. And we will see you very soon for a new video. Bye!